Moving on to item 11.3, sale of Monarch Theatre. The sponsor is Energy, Land, and Environment. Yeah, okay. And there's a recommendation there.
Sorry, would you like the motion at this point? Okay. I move that council approves the sale of the Monarch Theatre to the purchaser with the following key terms and conditions. A purchase price of $100,000. B, the property is sold as is, where is. And C, a real estate purchase contract in a form and content satisfactory to the city manager and city solicitor.
I'll second.
Questions or comments? Councillor Hirsch.
So thanks. Through the chair, I don't sit on this committee, so just read with interest like many other adders in regards to the proposed sale. I did have a couple people reach out to me and kind of felt, because the purchase price was listed, and felt it was a little bit light, quite frankly, and I had indicated that there's a little bit of understanding in regards to it, so maybe I can ask that. There is some limitations that we certainly as a council put on it, and I know, again, when you start putting limitations on property and ability to exercise whatever they want, and if you start limiting that, that obviously has a limitation. So just wondering for some of the people and myself how we arrived on purchase price.
City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you. Through the chair, Managing Director Pancoast, can you outline that for us? Thank you.
Thank you through the chair, and if it's helpful, I can offer a bit broader context as well. Really this, you may recall, council had provided earlier direction after an expression of interest process had failed through public services. The team introduced a request for proposal process on criteria that council had outlined, and the submissions were scored on that basis, including intended use, city financial obligations, organizational capacity and experience, and historic heritage preservation as a mandatory requirement. And out of the submissions that were received, it was the highest scored submission that was identified, and we've been working through the land team to help paper the transaction since and arrive at the primary terms that you're looking at today. I'll also note that in addition to those terms, we are looking to include a 50-year right of first refusal in case there is any identified shift in the intended purchaser ever wanting to sell or lease any part of the asset, making sure that the city has an opportunity to protect its interests in that important area, as well as certainly making sure that there is a protection for the municipal heritage resource. I will also note that there's been some questions about why we've been experiencing some delays. In this case, the proponent had submitted a joint proposal, and ultimately at being identified as the preferred party to move forward with, they needed to go through a process to actually create the legal entity that is purchasing this property subject to council's approval. And with your indulgence, I do have permission from the purchaser to share who they are and a little bit more about them. So this is the Monarch 1911 Society. And this society is a nonprofit directed by members of the Rotary Clubs of Medicine Hat, and it's operating as a social enterprise. The society does plan that once the Monarch is fully operational, the profits are to be annually distributed back into the community. And ultimately, the partnership that I had mentioned is really that Monarch 1911 Society intends to enter into an agreement with Plugged In Media to operate and program the theatre going forward. And I believe they are in the audience if they have stayed here and are offering a wave. And we also do have available, if detailed questions come forward, we have our real estate specialist, Kim Turton, available, as well as Manager Erin Nelson to assist, because certainly public services was a key driver leading to this point.
So I appreciate that, because a lot, so the sale was disclosed, but necessarily the developer and what the plan is. So I'm quite pleased that that was shared, because I think it just kind of illustrates a little bit, and my feedback actually was that as well in regards to making sure it was the right fit for the community, because really at the end of the day, you've got a very specialized building that has some longevity to it, something that we want to protect, which is quite a limiting factor. So I think that said, and that was in my earlier comment. So I'm comfortable in terms of how we arrived, but I think it's nice. So I appreciate the background, because that really wasn't, although the purchase price was illustrated, the kind of the rationale and how we got there isn't. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Councillor Sharps.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'm so glad that Councillor Hirsch brought that up, because I too had a question about the time, but I still kind of have a question about the time that it took. So we started this, I think, in January of 2022, and I understand the requirements they needed to run through. Is that something we can change and be more specific on our actual RFP to be very clear about what we're looking for, so that we're not stuck in a 18-month holding pattern?
Managing Director Pancoast.
Thank you. Through the chair, essentially the RFP process was relatively quick. We were able to identify the preferred purchaser early on. It was really that process of going through Alberta registries to make sure that the legal entity could exist. That area had a significant backlog, and that took roughly 4+ months to finalize that process.
Just to follow up, so if I understand, they can't it can't be a component that somebody's already pre-registered with the Alberta registries as a corporation or as a registered charity or whatever it is. Is that correct?
Managing Director Pancoast.
Yes, through the chair, we could have made that as a requirement. I suspect that would have been a limiting factor in the number of bids we would have received and would have prevented opportunities like this one from coming forward.
Perfect. And I just have one last question. I am so glad that this group got it. I think they're amazing, and I see what they do in the community. However, when we're looking at this and you're looking at for $100,000, the first thing, I would be sitting at home saying, well, why the heck wasn't it listed? And why didn't we get a realtor to do it? Isn't that the smart thing to do? And I think Councillor Hirsch touched on it, but what was our rationale with going the route that we did versus going through for sale sign?
I will also note that was a council decision, but Managing Director Pancoast.
Yes, thank you through the chair. And the prior decision item that had come through council was included just to remind everyone's memory, but just as a quick summary, it really was the multi-factored considerations that council was looking for. We even at one point had considered whether we should be leasing the building rather than selling the building, simply because of the desire to control the ongoing activities. In this case, the desire by council was to pursue a sale, and whether that was outsourced through a real estate group or conducted internally. Certainly our real estate specialist has significant history as a real estate agent within the city, and she was a key resource in leading the papering of this exercise. But really, again, I don't believe it was the delays related to the actual papering and more so the registry's office.
Thank you. Just one last thing. I just wanted to ask that for purposes of, I know it was a council direction, but like so many things that we talk about in council, the people watching don't always remember what was said. And so let's just cut that off at the nose and see if we can get that sorted.
Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, Your Worship, through the chair. I'm excited, and I'm also excited to be educated about this 1911 Society of a nonprofit. It's part of the Rotarian group. Then is that? I guess I don't even know who to ask. Managing Director Pancoast.
Managing Director Pancoast, if you have the information.
Through the chair, I can confirm that it's a nonprofit directed by members of Rotary Club. So the specific relationship to Rotary itself, I would defer to the individuals that are
They're
present.
shaking yes. Just to follow up, and then it'll be operated by Plug-in Media?
I believe that agreement is pending, but that is the intent.
Yeah. Just again, this will be wonderful. Like it's such a part of our downtown core, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. So that's exciting.
Councillor Dumanowski?
Your Worship, like others who have indicated, there's excitement, and certainly to hear that our Monarch, our beloved Monarch, is going to come back to life is absolutely good news. The conversation around the purchase price versus sale price, again, I would speculate, but I know that some of the conversations that have ensued since we acquired the building, not unlike other buildings, there are future maintenance costs that have been identified. I mean, obviously you're well aware, but and there was ongoing maintenance and costs associated with keeping this facility mothballed, if you will. So the fact that we're able to get a return even of that nature, and more importantly, identify a partnership, or not a partnership, but a group who are willing to partner under very specific detailed requirements under the RFP, maintaining obviously the historical designation, which is huge. And just on that, one of the things that certainly we hear over time is our historical reflection on what has been lost, or where councils of the past hadn't acted, and I'm going to say that, to preserve some of our historical entities. So I think at the time we did what we needed to do, and it was the right decision. And today we have another decision before us that I think is the right decision. So I'm pleased to see this here, and I'm also pleased that we will have first right of refusal in the if there were any turning of events of any sort. But we certainly are excited to hear that the Monarch 1911 Society is taking over. So congratulations, I hope, once council votes.
Councillor Knodel?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I just want to speak for many people in the community and say how excited people are that something is happening with the Monarch. I get questions about it often. What's happening? What's happening? So to be able to vote, I will be voting in favor of this, and I'm really excited to see the energy come back alive in this space. And thank you to the group that stepped up, and I'm behind you and excited for you. So yeah, thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll vote on the motion. That passes unanimously. Congratulations to all.